Tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Thank you for joining me on Recovery TV this Saturday and Sunday. Social Sparks is in the house. Long waits for our kids. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Kristen and Shane from Social Sparks, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, John.
So let's talk a little bit about Social Sparks and what Social Sparks is.
Sure. So Social Sparks opened in 2015. We are an outpatient mental health facility. We service children ages 5 and older. We also see young adults and adults as well. We have a focus on neurodiversity. We specialize in working with individuals who are on the autism spectrum, but we do also service clients with a variety of mental health diagnoses. And our services include individual counseling, family counseling, and therapeutic groups. And I would say we are very well known for our groups. We offer quite a bit of groups at Social Sparks.
Let me ask you a question about, you said 5 and up.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if a child is diagnosed previous to 5? Is there any services for those kids?
Mm-hmm. Typically, at least for 0 to 3, children have access to early intervention. And usually there's other services in the community, especially I know Head Start and places like that do offer services for under 5 years old.
Mm-hmm. So when we had talked before we got on air, you had indicated the wait list is 8 to 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
For individual therapy, so for an intake assessment, we can get you in 3 to 4 months. And then group, we can get you in a group for group therapy shortly after that. But individual services and family services, that's 8 to 12 months.
So here's the $64 question. Why? Why do I have to wait 3 to 4 months when I call Social Sparks? I think people need to know that. Number one, I know the rates are horrible. Mm-hmm. And they're doing a rate review right now in the state, and hopefully the governor does what he needs to do in his budget, and the General Assembly follows suit and raise the rates.
Absolutely.
And number two is that the rates also drive the pays for the individuals, doctors, clinicians. Is that your main problem, is the issue of reimbursements? Why people don't want to get into the field?
That seems to be a huge barrier right now. I think that if you talk to anybody in especially outpatient behavioral health, they'll tell you that we're working with rates from years ago that haven't changed, but everything around us has changed. The cost of living has changed substantially. And I think that it's definitely a labor of love, and you know, we all go into it because we're passionate about it, but we know that it's almost kind of a joke that you know, in the field, that we know we don't get paid at the level that we really should be compensated for the work that's done in mental health.
You know, one of my pet peeves, and people know it because people tag me with PIA at the end of my name. I can't say what that is, but you figure it out. But the issue of MCOs, the Medicaid rates, the MCOs not paying on a timely manner. I've had people who join my organization have to sell condos, they've had to sell property, they've had to wait a week in order to pay people. It's not right. The healthcare system in Rhode Island is broken. Case closed. It's broken. We need to get, and I say this all the time again to the state, we need to get 5, 6, 7, maybe even 11 people in a room, lock the door and try to figure this out, because people are suffering. I see it all the time. I get calls all the time. I can't get pain medication because the pendulum has swung so far to the left now. It's not back in the middle. People committing suicide because of pain.
Yes.
Our kids are not being treated in the right, respectful manner, in a timely fashion. And that, long term, that's a big problem.
Absolutely. I mean, we see it with our clients. We oftentimes, when we're looking for referrals and we need a client to go inpatient or even to a partial program, the wait for a bed in the hospital is, you know, they can be in the ER for days before they're moved to inpatient.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because I went to visit a friend of mine in the hospital, and I happened to have a conversation with somebody that was in the Hasbro, and it was a 9-hour wait. You tell me how you can keep a child occupied for 9 hours in an emergency room, and people coming in and out, and when they haven't been seen yet.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So you're the driver of the bus.
That's right.
How are we going to make this better?
Well, we can keep fighting for higher rates, and we can keep hiring clinicians, keep expanding. We're doing our best.
We're trying to improve our packages for employment to make jobs.
It's not easy. It's not easy. And people would much rather, and I hate to say this, I use it all the time, much rather go to McDonald's
Yeah.
for $20 an hour than work for Social Sparks and try to help kids for $15.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
You know, we just keep chasing our tail in Rhode Island. And somebody needs to grab the tail and stop the Ferris wheel from going around and do the right thing for these people.
Especially since COVID, since the pandemic, we've seen a huge increase in mental health needs for children and adults. So I think we know that we're at capacity. And with that being said, we need more clinicians. And like you said, with the issues that we have with funding and reimbursement, it's kind of this perfect storm.
We're going to take a break in a couple of seconds, but I want the next segment for you to tell me, if John comes in with his 5-year-old son, what is the process? What is the process? Because I think people watching this show want to know what the process is before they even start the process. Because it's a process where you have a child who is sick, and you want to know what road you're going down before you go down that road in the back of your head, because you don't know turning the corner what's going to happen.
Right.
So you're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. We'll be right back with Social Sparks right after these messages.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. Social Sparks is in the house. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Husband and wife team here. Welcome. Kristen and Shane. Let's talk about the intake process.
Sure.
I want my viewers to know, when they call Social Sparks, what they need to bring to the first meeting, what they need to do to follow up. I don't know who wants to take it, but the floor is yours.
So the intake process starts, it's the initial appointment it's about an hour long, and we do ask families to bring the child with them, so the clinician that's meeting with them can have a chance to get to know them, to assess the child's needs. The family is a big part of the conversation about what are the goals, what are the needs of the child individually, so we can make sure we offer the best, services that we can. And we ask for them to bring any kind of documentation that might be helpful for us in making those determinations. So, maybe that might be a school IEP or a psych eval that's been had, or any other supporting documentation, which they can also provide to us ahead of time.
Let me ask you just a quick question before we get to the next segment, Shane. What about COVID and the effects of COVID with young kids? You see a rise in younger kids coming to you before COVID, there was probably not that many, and now with COVID, now there's a lot. Is that accurate?
I think there was a good amount prior to COVID, but I can say that it has substantially increased since. I know I read a statistic about, I think, the beginning of 2021, just teen suicide attempts.
Yeah.
The increase, especially with teen girls, is over 50% increase.
Right.
So we have seen that firsthand at Social Sparks. We've done more safety planning than we had in the past. We've had more, unfortunately, more individuals come in who have made attempts. And where our biggest concern, that's just not acceptable for us. And our biggest concern is, do they have a safe place where they can go, where they can feel comfortable, where they can connect with other peers, where they can, you know, have empathy and support and learn skills in this environment. And that's the environment that we try to create at Social Sparks, because we don't see that there's many other places available for that. And I think when we have groups, especially, and we bring kids and young adults together, they can make those connections with each other, and they don't feel so alone, and they have hope that things can get better.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit about more of the intake. What you were saying.
Yeah, so before the intake happens, you can submit your information on our website, socialsparksri.com. You can navigate to the new clients page, and there's an online form there that you can fill out. That'll give us all your information, put you right on our wait list, and then we'll give you a call once you're up on the wait list.
Now, is the wait list for that call as long as the wait list to see a clinician? Is it 8 months?
No.
Okay.
No, right now it's about 3 to 4 months.
Okay. So how do we break it? How do we break it?
That's the big question. I know. I think between conversations that Shane and I have had, we're always trying to figure out how can we expand. So, you know, we opened up a second location last year. That's been helpful, but that's in the South County area. So
I see you're in Lincoln right now.
we're in Lincoln right now.
In South County.
Yes, and we just opened South County last year in the South County Commons.
Okay.
Yeah, and our Lincoln location is located right at the Lincoln Mall, so it's convenient. We have, you know, those communities and businesses around us, so we can do community events, and we can bring our clients out on community outings, which is really nice. But we're always talking about how to continue expanding. And as a small business, it can be really difficult with the overhead and the costs associated with that. Virtual is a great option, but I really, truly don't think anything beats in person when it comes to mental health.
You know, the state, you know, they don't do a good job. I hate to say it, but they don't do a good job with organizations like yourself and trying to help you navigate the system and put their foot down with the MCOs to make sure you get paid in a timely manner. You know, you cannot afford to be paid in 90 days. You
No.
cannot afford to be paid in 180 days. You cannot afford to be dragged over the coals and refusals to get paid because of something. It's just heart-wrenching to me.
Yes.
That I know if I had a son or a daughter that needed help, to wait 8 to 12 months, that's unconscionable to me.
I think
And
there's
then they
been-
wonder why. The state wonders why. They got so many people in a group over here. Now, if you don't help these people at age 5, or you don't see them until they're 6, that's a whole year wasted.
Right.
And that child going down the line is going to cost the state more money.
Especially if they need a higher level of care.
Right, more
So-
money. So I mean, you know, it's something that the state needs to really open their eyes and take a look at the healthcare system, because it's broken. I say it all the time. That's why they call me the PIA after my name. But you know, I have to give you guys kudos for what you do and
Thank you.
help young children. And we're going to take another break, and then we're going to come back, and I want to talk a little bit more about Social Sparks and where you're headed. All right? You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Social Sparks is in the house. Kristen and Shane, they do clinical work with young folks all the way to older folks. So, 2 locations. You want to go to 3 or 4 locations, but obviously the PIA is going to have to help you with that, with the state. But it's very concerning to me, to be honest with you. The phone calls that I get from parents that cry on the phone, they don't know what to do. Their son or daughter is having issues. They can't get the correct medical attention. As I told you before, Hasbro was 9-hour wait when I was there a few weeks ago. 8 to 12 month wait for you folks. And it's sad. It's really sad. I mean, you guys just had a little baby yourselves, so, you know, you put yourself in the parents' positions. You know, thank God yours is healthy. But there are kids that need help.
Absolutely.
They need help. So when you see these folks coming into your facilities, is it hard as owners to say, you know, they called me 8 months ago
Yeah.
and now they're just walking through the door?
I think there's many sleepless nights over that.
It is, yeah, and we give them resources. It's not like we, you know, just saying you gotta wait this long.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
They can.
But even
we give the kids link number.
But even the
frequently.
resources are not there.
Right.
Right.
You know, I mean, the resources have to wait. You know, everybody gives everybody, you know, recommendations to go out and maybe you go see this one
Of course.
or go see this one. But everyone is stretched to the max right now. Everyone, no matter it's residential treatment, outpatient treatment, substance use, mental health, suicide.
Yeah.
I was just in a presentation by the Department of Health. I'm going to try to get them to come on the show. Suicides, it's like unimaginable, the amount of suicides right now.
It's horrible.
Whether it's a young child to older folks. I mean, it's just running rampant. Give me the phone number that my viewers can call.
Sure. Our phone number is 401-475-0653. Our email is info@socialsparksri.com, and you can check out our website, socialsparksri.com.
You know, I want to thank both of you for what you do, because I know you probably don't get a lot of thanks.
Thank
You
you.
get a lot of complaints, but you don't get a lot of thanks. But, you know, keep up the good fight. You know, sooner or later this tree will shake out. You know, hopefully the governor will do what he needs to do with the rates come his budget, and the General Assembly sees fit to fund them, because you can't operate a business from rates 20 years ago.
Right.
It's 2023. It's not the year 2000.
Right.
So again, thank you very much for what you do. I wish you all the best. You have my number, my number with the PIA in the back of it, and we'll see what we can do. And again, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Social Sparks has been in the house today. Give them a call. We'll see you next week.